Why do you think readers are so drawn to the blend of fantasy and romance right now? Anyone?
I'll start.
Yeah, you start.
I think people read, one, to discover new lands, new people, new experiences, and love is a part of that. How it comes to be, how it ends, how it gets very, very complicated. And when you have that in a world where it starts out as ordinary, but then it twists, I think that's perfect. I mean, we're kind of living in a romantasy world right now, and I guess we're in the bad part of the romance.
Where's the hot blacksmith?
Exactly. Where's the hot blacksmith? But I think it's a panacea to what's happening in our lives right now.
Yeah, I think that romantasy really came out of the YA space because fantasy romance has been popular in young adult for so long, but you weren't really seeing until relatively recently a big surge of content that was being created for readers as they got older. They wanted older characters, they wanted maybe spicier content or, just more mature stories. And so I think it's a natural evolution of what was already existing in the YA space. As to why people like it, I think that in real life, we do not like drama in our relationships, but in fiction, we want... Why did I sense this about you? We want it in fiction because that's what makes it exciting. So if you add in the fantastical, you add in, saving kingdoms, the tension and the stakes is just so much higher. So it's romance times 10 as far as tension, stakes, and excitement. And I think that really appeals to a lot of readers.
I agree completely about the YA space in particular, and I think that the YA space was so heavily dominated by women, and then it's just like a natural progression moving into adult fantasy as we age too. As I started thinking I was only ever going to write YA because that's what I loved as a reader, but then you age up, the category starts to adapt, and I'm not gonna hate on any male authors. I love Brandon Sanderson. Dungeon Crawler Carl's one of my favorite books right now. But it was the fantasy adult space was so heavily dominated by men that I feel like as, the YA readers, writers kind of aged up, there was just that natural progression. And now it's very heavily dominated by women, which is really interesting and cool to see. But it is kind of weird to me that we had to have a whole new genre invented, just because we infiltrated that space.
They don't want us.
Yeah, they
it's
don't
their
want
loss.
Yeah, and I also think fantasy across the board is usually about transformation, either of the main character or the world, but so are love stories. You usually have to become your best self to really form a lasting love. So I think it's actually a very natural combination of these two genres because really it's about becoming more yourself and creating a more beautiful world. And I think, I don't know, there's something that feels like even Lord of the Rings ends in a wedding.
I agree with everything that has been said, and I would add, at least for me as a romantasy reader, I find it very hopeful. Fantasy has always been an escape for me in that hopefully by the end of a series or end of the book, good has triumphed over evil. And in romance, there's usually the HEA, the happily ever after, and especially if we look at when romantasy became a genre, I guess, or became really popular, bad things were starting to happen, or we were in the middle of bad things, and we just kind of needed the hope of everything's gonna be okay because that's how it works.
I feel like it's nice to see romantic partners from a women's perspective too. I feel like they're written very differently, and I feel like that is a big part of why this genre is so successful and so loved, because we write them a little different. Agreed. A little nicer. Yeah. A little more accurate.
Well, more accurate, exactly.
Yeah.
you're not ignoring the bad parts, nor are you sensationalizing those bad parts. It just is. This is how like real people love each other, and I think we do bring that kind of, I'm not looking at myself breasting boobily across the, because women don't do that. So bringing that kind of perspective, I think, especially women readers are like, I can see myself in her.
Yeah, I mean, I think that so much of what we consume in the world is catered to the male gaze, and Romantasy is very much catered to the female gaze, and that is something that a lot of people are really drawn to. And so it's been nice to see the rise of that, where what women desire is given the same, bandwidth as what men desire.